Welcome to session 3 of the Anxiety Management Programme. I'd like to just go back to the list of physical symptoms that we discussed in previous sessions and pick out the one of feeling short of breath. And I'd like to talk about that in a little bit more detail. And think about what happens when we breathe too much. You've probably heard about or been instructed to breathe properly, and for those of you who've already engaged in anxiety management programs previously, you'll be very aware how relaxation and breathing techniques play an important part in the effective management of panic. But it's also important to remember that breathing too much can have an adverse effect on our functioning and brings with it a whole range of different symptoms. So, breathing too much can make us feel too hot or cold, can tense up our muscles so that we're likely to experience cramps. We may not be able to see properly, start breathing quickly, start sweating. We may experience numbness and tingling sensations, and our chest may tighten. You may feel like you've left the real world, and you may have an emotional outburst. But believe it or not, these symptoms are caused because the gas in the lungs have been upset by you aren't getting enough carbon dioxide and your blood has become more alkaline. And to deal with these symptoms, you need to get enough carbon dioxide back into your lungs. In other words, get the balance of gases right. And you can do this by controlled breathing. So let's think about hyperventilation first. You might have heard someone say, I'm hyperventilating, but what does it mean to hyperventilate? I'm going to break the words down first. Hyper comes from the Greek, and it means over or beyond. And ventilation has a more mixed origin and comes from the Middle English ventilatum, which means to blow away, or from the Latin ventil, to fan, and from ventulus, which is a diminutive of ventus, means wind. In Indo-European roots, one of its definitions is given as to aerate or oxygenate blood. However, if you hyperventilate, you'll be firing up your body for action. You'll respond to a stimulus as a physical threat. You'll overbreathe, and you'll allow that breath to act as the lead for all the other symptoms. You'll change the pattern of your breathing in moments. Remember, we've talked about that perceived threat perhaps of being in a supermarket queue. And it'll take at least 20 minutes to calm your body down. If you've generated extra oxygen for this perceived threat, then you might now have a panic attack because you've misinterpreted the symptoms. And it's time to breathe in a controlled manner. Well, we're going to do some breathing with Herbert Benson. It's called Bensons Breathing. You may have heard of it. And learning to breathe in a controlled way will help you to deal much more effectively with your anxiety and help calm you down. So think about Benson's breathing and how it will help you. It will provide you with a technique to control your breathing. You can learn it in 3 minutes to get immediate benefits. You'll shift from anxious to calm with ease. It's impossible to be anxious and calm simultaneously. That's worth thinking about. See if you can do it. See if you can be calm and anxious at the same time. Learning to breathe properly puts you in the driving seat. And your brain won't think there's any threat, so you'll calm down. And if you're over-breathing, then this is a good technique for you. Okay. How to put Benson's breathing into action. Do this now if you like. You may already be sitting in your most comfortable chair, but if not, you may want to move to the place that you're most comfortable. If you need to, write a sign and stick it on the door. Do not disturb. You may want to put underneath it, I mean it, or that means you. Place your hands on your stomach so that your fingertips just touch. Gently now, breathe in through your nose. 3 to 4 seconds. As you do so, push your abdomen out. Here we go then. Breathing in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, 4. As you do this, the fingertips that were touching should move apart slightly. Check that. Have they? I know, you're waiting to breathe out. Okay. Breathe out through your mouth, 4 to 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you do that, your fingertips come back together. Remember, the out-breath should be longer than the in one. The out-breath should be longer than the in one. And as you breathe out, think of a pleasant and or calming word. It's important to practice this technique on a daily basis, to get into the habit of it, so it becomes habitual to you, something that's not strange, but something that's very familiar. You may be thinking, why do anxiety symptoms begin? There's usually a combination of causes, and again it's individual for each person. But it seems to be that there's 2 important reasons why anxiety begins. That is, the amount of stress you are under. You may have a single major problem, or more likely a number of smaller problems which all add up to a large amount of stress. You may not even be aware that stress is building up in you, but you might be rushing around dealing with one thing, having to deal with something else, then something else happens. And because you're so busy dealing with things, you actually fail to take care of yourself, and you don't notice the stress build up. Stress can be measured to some extent by the amount of changes that have taken place in your life recently. Being physically tired, run down, and having many changes or traumas makes you more vulnerable to anxiety. So it's worth thinking about what's going on. That's a good question to ask yourself. What's going on in my life right now? What things can I cut out? And of course, the other thing to think about when considering why anxiety symptoms begin is the kind of person you are. You know, some people have a more sensitive emotional nervous system. Their body's arousal responses might be triggered more quickly and take a longer time to calm down. So it is about individuality. And other people may have learned from their parents or caregivers in their early experiences how to get anxious and how to worry. You might have heard people say, oh, my mother was a born worrier. That's where I get it from. So it might be worth exploring your early experiences to see how well you're being a worrier or an anxious person. And think about what maintains anxiety. Why does anxiety stay with you? What keeps it going? Basically, there seems to be 2 reasons. 1, because of the way you behave, especially because you avoid the situations you fear. Talked about that previously. And 2, because of the beliefs you have about the situation and its consequences. Okay, well that's me done for session 3. I would just invite you to keep on practicing your Bensons breathing, see how you get on. Thanks for listening.